Australia doesn't make too many comedy films, and when we do, they're usually pretty genre specific. Just like The Castle is about the working class struggle, Priscilla is a fish out of water comedy that puts drag queens in the outback. This comedy is pretty much your standard rom-com that Hollywood does really well, pumps out a few dozen a year. It did well enough to get a sequel film, but are both of them up to chop? A few best men from 2011 and a few less men from 2017 came from the pen of screenwriter Dean Craig, the British screenwriter behind the hit comedy Death at a Funeral. It's amazing there are any young people left in Australia because half the country goes off to the UK the second high school or university finishes, if they can score a visa. And so the premise of A Few Best Men is Xavier Samuel's character David returns from the UK to get married back home in Australia, bringing his best mates with him, and they include Chris Marshall from Love Actually. Chaos ensues, particularly with David's character's family, including Rebel Wilson doing her usual funny shtick, and Olivia Newton-John as mother of the bride who hits the sauce a bit hard. The British co-production had a $15 million budget, and, well, there are CGI films made for less money, and all I can say is that I'm glad occasionally artists do get paid what they're worth to make up for all those films that they do for their mates for free, but that money is not up there on the screen. That cross-UK Australia appeal must have worked, though, because in 2017 it got a sequel, A Few Less Men, which sees the groom and his groomsmen in big trouble when one of them falls off a cliff and the boys have to get their body back to the UK, but there's a plane crash and other shenanigans that get in their way. Someone really took it in the neck on this one. It made just $250,000 internationally, and that includes an American cinema release. And it looks like the production company have done their best to redact any information about the budget because those fields are empty on IMDb and the other usual sources of truth. I am going to say that I am not a fan of these films. The first film was directed by Stephen Elliott, director of Priscilla, so we know he can do so much better. Mark Lamprell directed A Few Less Men, and similarly, he directed Babe in the City, so, you know, he's got the stuff. I think the common factor here is two very weak screenplays. The second one is just a poor Xerox of the first. Most of the comedy comes not from the dialogue, not from character, just from pratfalls. Xavier Samuel's character falls over a lot. I love film generally. I will give anything a go, but Dean Craig's Death at a Funeral is one of the few films that I've actually walked out on. I know other people love it. Perhaps I was just in a mood, but these films have nothing clever about them. It's lowest common denominator kind of stuff. One reader review on IMDb says, okay if you've had a few drinks. And look, just like a bad relationship, if you've got a drink to find it tolerable, you know it's time to leave.